The scrolls are anti-Pharisee. The scrolls are anti-compromise with foreign power. The scrolls are like this mindset that I'm telling you about in the Islamic world. No compromise, no way to appease them. That's why they all commit suicide. Josephus was supposed to commit suicide, but as a Pharisee, he didn't. He tricked the others and surrendered. And therefore lived to write these great histories. I'm glad he did in a way, although I think he's a horrible, rotten person. And I wouldn't want to even walk down the street with him tomorrow. If he appeared, I wouldn't talk to him. And I wouldn't touch him. I wouldn't have anything, I wouldn't have any commerce with such a person who watched other people die, was involved in other people dying. Sort of like the people who sent people off in the concentration camps to save themselves in the Second World War. I mean, okay, we're all under certain pressure, so we can't judge lest we be judged as it is, but you don't have to associate with certain kinds of individuals. And I think Josephus is, to me, a horrendous person, though I am grateful for his works. I mean, he represents everything that I personally despise in the world, okay? And I put Paul in the same category, if you forgive me. These are people that to me represent everything that is abhorrent to me as someone who values the Jewish tradition, history, and so on. To me, the triumph of Pauline Christianity is the triumph of Hellenism. Triumph of Hellenism. The Jews fought 200 years against Hellenization, and Paul in one fell swoop produced it. Oh, you say, well, you mean, isn't that Jesus Paul is reflecting? I don't know. That's what we do in historical Jesus class. You're going to have to look into these things and decide for yourself. No, I don't think that is Jesus in any way, shape, or form. He wouldn't have been executed by the Romans if he was executed. And I think Paul, so one fact he seems to know that Jesus was executed by the Romans at some point. He doesn't know anything else about Jesus in his letters at all. And you would think he would know something, but he doesn't know anything. You think he would say, I was walking with Peter one day, and Peter told me that when Jesus was doing this, that, and the other thing, he did this, that, and the other thing, the way the rabbinic literature is. There's not a word like that in any. We have around 10 letters from Paul. He never gives any personal, and he lived almost in the same period as Jesus. I mean, he's flourishing in the mid-30s, Paul is. What, and he's never heard anything about Jesus? He doesn't have any stories to tell us about Jesus? He doesn't have any information to communicate about Jesus? No, of course not, because he never met him and he didn't know anything about him. He's involved with a supernatural being that he calls Christ Jesus, that he gets personal revelations from in his letters. Anyway, this is a total Hellenization of Judaism. So, of course, the Mosaic law goes by the boards, which is fine. I'm not an observer of Mosaic law myself, but I'm telling you how the Hellenization works. Jesus, as we know him, represents a triumph of Hellenization. I'm not against it. I love Greek temples. I love the Greek arts. I love Greek culture. But I have to say that the Palestinian people fought against what it represented. That is the Jewish people in Palestine at that time. And they had 200 years, 250 years of resistance. Man, person, woman after woman after woman, man after man after man died in that struggle. From 175 BC to 70 AD, you add up, that's 250 years. That's the whole time this country's been in existence. We don't think of it as 250 years of struggle. And then some because of the Bar Kokhba uprising. So if you tack on to the Bar Kokhba uprising on that, 136, from 175, where are you? 136? 300 years. 300 years of struggle to the death against this. And then this is what happens. Okay, fair enough. I'm not, this was imposed by Roman armies. And the problem is that the Jerusalem center of these things was obliterated. And all that was left was the Pauline Gentile mission overseas. You say, well, didn't that represent the Jerusalem center? No, because in the letters of Paul you see quite clearly that they don't approve of what Paul's doing overseas. Not the rabbis. The leadership of his own movement don't approve of it. And he's very upset about that, and he gets very aggressive about that. I just read a passage in my class today. He says to the people who are coming around circumcising his Gentile communities because they believe that before you are heirs to the promise of the covenant, you must come in under the covenant. And the sign of the covenant is circumcision. So Paul, the whole letter to the Galatians is an attack on Jewish circumcision. I'm not saying you should or shouldn't be circumcised. I mean, you do whatever your religion says. But if you're going to rifle the Jewish cultural past and pick and choose out of its prophecies what you like and ignore the other ones, you're going to take things out of context and then use them as a prophetical thing for your particular religious persuasion, then I think you're to some extent dishonoring the tradition which you are well, as I say today, cherry picking, to use a intelligence which is being cherry picked. And so, I mean, I'm not a kosher person, and I don't follow the law, but I honor what those people who gave their lives did. And I wouldn't look, I just read in my class today what Paul says in Galatians. He says, you know, I'll show you all these things in an allegory. Abraham had 2 sons, Galatians 4. After attacking circumcision and Jewish festivals as beggarly elements and so on and so forth. He says, you know, Abraham had 2 sons. Had 2 sons. One was the daughter of the slave woman, one was the daughter of the free woman. The slave woman was Mount Sinai in Arabia. Her name was Hagar. That is the Jews today. Well, but that's the exact opposite of the Jewish genealogical presentation. Now, you can get away with that in Ireland. If you're preaching in Switzerland, in the forest, nobody knows the history, that'll work fine. You couldn't do that in Palestine where people know the history. You couldn't say that to Jews in Palestine. Oh, well, you know, you actually are the children of Hagar. I'm not against, I don't like, the Old Testament's very, very kind to Hagar. And I don't think Abraham treats Hagar well. And I think Sarah is a rotter in that situation, and so on and so forth. I'm not praising or not, I don't know if you've read the literature, any of the people involved. Hagar is a very sympathetic character, but she's presented as the father of the Arab peoples. She's not part of the Jewish genealogical presentation. So what does Paul? He just flips it over. He says, okay, the Jews are the children of the slave woman because they are enslaved by Mount Sinai in Arabia. So what's he doing? He's saying the Jews are slaves of Mosaic law. I mean, I don't have to be a genius to read through his allegories. And the people who, like the Islamic world, refuse to question anything and just take it as, oh, that's what he said, that must be right. I'm not of that mindset. I like to look at things and say, well, this is making